Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into a seriously fascinating biological mystery today. How humanity actually figured out the human body from the outside in. For thousands of years, the internal workings of our bodies were a complete, total mystery to us. And yet, our ancestors still managed to create these incredibly complex systems of healing. So how did they do it? Well, they did it by treating the surface. I want you to think about your own instincts for a second. When you bump your knee or smack your elbow, what's literally the very first thing you do? You rub it, right? Or say you have a really bad stomach ache, you might instinctively press your hand hard against your stomach or grab a hot water bottle. Why do we automatically rub, press, or heat our skin when something hurts deep down inside? Well, that simple, everyday human instinct is exactly what sets up the central biological mystery we're unpacking today. To really grasp this, we have to step back into what historians call the black box of life. Imagine being a healer thousands of years ago. You obviously couldn't just cut a living person open to see what was wrong with their organs, and you definitely didn't have MRI machines, X-rays, or blood tests. The internal body was literally a locked black box. Because they couldn't peek inside, ancient humans were forced to use the only interface they actually had access to, the skin. The body's surface essentially became their biological control panel.
All right, part one, counter-irritation, a global consensus.
It's wild to think about, but historically, vastly different cultures tackled this exact same black box problem in surprisingly similar ways. For example, European astromedicine used the zodiac man, mapping specific skin regions to celestial bodies to guide treatments. Meanwhile, the Chinese meridian system mapped the flow of qi across the body. Now, those are completely different cultural philosophies, right? But the underlying medical logic is identical. Both cultures independently recognized that to heal the deep, you have to map out and stimulate the surface. So how exactly did they stimulate this control panel? Well, it wasn't always pretty. All over the world, early doctors used what we call counter-irritation. These were sometimes pretty brutal. Pain inhibits pain therapies, meant to trigger a healing response. We're talking about applying intense physical heat, sometimes literally burning the skin with a red-hot iron. They use bloodletting with leeches. They use chemical blistering, like applying toxic crushed bugs to intentionally create massive skin blisters. The ancient Romans even used live torpedo fish to deliver shocks of biological electricity to numb joint pain. Honestly, whatever worked, right? Now, you might be thinking this sounds like totally fringe, wacky stuff. No way. Actually, this was mainstream. Let me give you the visceral story of Dr. William Heberden, a super respected 18th century British physician. Heberden is the guy who actually first named angina pectoris, the chest pain you get with a heart attack. And how did he treat it? By intentionally causing severe chemical blisters and infections right on the patient's chest. In the West, severely blistering the skin to save a failing heart was completely standard medicine. What's really brilliant here is that these doctors absolutely knew they weren't performing magic. They were just hacking the body's innate self-healing system. In 1838, Dr. Augustus Granville kind of hit the nail on the head. He studied all these intense methods and realized that adding a controlled external stressor forced the body to rally its natural healing resources. They didn't know the exact neuroscience yet, but they empirically knew for a fact that creating a new controlled pain on the outside could shut down a deadly pain on the inside. But then, everything changed. As we moved into the 19th and 20th centuries, modern science basically pushed all these ancient surface-level therapies to the fringes because we could finally look inside that black box. With the invention of modern anesthetics, advanced chemistry, and pharmacology, doctors could finally bypass the skin entirely. We could surgically remove tumors or just swallow a pill that travels straight to the organ. Western medicine totally shifted away from the surface and became almost exclusively focused on internal medicine. Which brings us to part two, demystifying acupuncture and meridians. See, there is one massive exception that actually survived this massive shift to internal medicine. We really need to reframe how we look at acupuncture. It's not just some mystical Eastern art, it's exactly the same counter-irritation phenomenon we just saw in 18th century Europe. But instead of using hot irons and toxic bugs, Chinese medicine spent thousands of years meticulously mapping, refining, and standardizing it. They took that crude human instinct of counter-irritation and evolved it into a highly sophisticated low-damage system using tiny needles. It's really the pinnacle of ancient Somano medicine, treating the inside by treating the outside. And what about those invisible meridians? Well, they aren't some magical plumbing system flowing with invisible fluids. Modern research actually suggests they are functional biological communication networks. Think of it like Wi-Fi for your body. When you start looking at fascial continuity, complex nerve pathways, bioelectric signals, and microcirculation, you see this massive interconnected web. Through that web, a stimulus on your foot can legitimately send a biological signal all the way up to your brain or your gut.
All right, let's jump to part 3. Modern science opens the box.
So, how is modern neuroscience actually proving these ancient healers right? To answer that, we have to revisit our core mystery. How exactly does poking a specific spot on your skin physically alter your heart or your liver or your lungs?
The real aha moment came in the late 19th century when neurologists like Henry Head discovered a phenomenon known as referred pain. You've probably heard of this. It's why when someone is having a heart attack, their left arm often starts hurting. Why does that happen? Because the brain actually gets confused. It misinterprets the distress signal coming from the internal organ and accidentally projects it onto a specific area of the skin. The brain literally wires your skin and your internal organs together into shared circuits. This all boils down to the convergence facilitation theory. Basically, the nerve fibers from your internal organs and the nerve fibers from your skin literally converge into the exact same segment of your spinal cord. They merge and share the exact same neurological highway all the way up to the brain. And because these nerves meet at that same spinal switchboard, if you heavily stimulate the skin, it sends a massive flood of traffic back down to that shared intersection, which can actually physically alter the pain signals and the inflammation happening in the sick organ. And this biology perfectly bridges the East and the West. Back in the 19th century, Dr. Granville noticed that internal diseases created a highly sensitive seat of pain on the skin. Guys, that is exactly the same thing as an activated acupoint in Chinese medicine. They aren't just random mystical dots. Both of them are pathological reaction zones. They are the specific patches of skin that light up like neurological alarm bells when the internal organ sharing that exact spinal highway gets sick.
Okay, but how does adding a new stressor, like a needle prick or heat, actually help fix the problem? Enter DNIC, or diffuse noxious inhibitory controls. It's a mouthful, I know, but it is the modern science of counter-irritation. DNIC is your body's built-in neurological system where a strong, controlled external pain signal actively suppresses other pain pathways in the spinal cord. It basically proves that the ancient global consensus of using pain to fight pain wasn't a myth at all. It's a hardwired biological function.
So what does this all mean for us today? The biggest takeaway here is that medicine is simply an evolving language. Whether an ancient Chinese doctor is talking about qi and meridians, or a modern neurologist is talking about central sensitization and DNIC, humanity has literally just been using different languages to describe the exact same human body. We really don't have to choose between ancient philosophy and modern science. They are just two different lenses focused on the exact same biological network.
I want to leave you with this incredibly provocative thought from the source material. Medicines belong to their eras, but somatomedicine belongs to life itself. Your body surface is a million-year-old biological control panel. And yeah, while our modern pills and surgeries are absolute miracles of the era we live in, this innate ability to heal the deep by stimulating the surface, that is written directly into our nervous system. And the craziest part is we are only just beginning to truly understand its power. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.